All right, day 491 of going live. Today, we're going to look at a 5-bedroom property that has come on the market. And if you understand what we've been doing, right, we've been adding properties onto our comparable sales list, meaning we've looked at properties that have sold for the last 12 months, properties that have sold in the last 3 months, and also properties that are coming onto the market recently and seeing what they're coming onto the market for. And as always, we always take the simple, basic, standard data points for properties, so bed bath count, square footage, year built, the price that's being sold, price per square foot, what date was listed, the lot size, whether or not there are certain attributes like a garage, a basement, or they're an HOA, what subdivision they're in. So just so you can see, right now I'm on Redfin. I'm filtered for properties that are 4-bedroom plus. And these are properties that have been on the market for less than 3 days. And I came across this property, and let's see right here. And anytime I see a 5-bedroom property, I try to note it down right away because you don't see that many 5-bedroom properties coming onto the market. And if you're pursuing a BRRRR strategy, right, which stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat, getting the ARV or the after repair value is very important. And here's why, right? Let's use an example. If you bought a property for $20,000 cash and you renovate that property for $50,000 cash, so you're all in now $70,000. Well, if you're able to make the property worth $100,000, now all of a sudden you can go get a debt service coverage ratio loan and take back out 70% of the home's value very easily. So 70% LTV. And I can get back out $70,000 in the form of loan proceeds, which is exactly what you invested in the property in the first place. So that means you essentially leave no money in the deal, and you get to take the same 70 grand you put in and put it towards the next deal. Okay. And that's the beauty of the BRRRR strategy. That's why it's more scalable, because otherwise the alternative is you saving money from your full-time job for that 20-25% down payment, buying a property, hoping that it cash flows or appreciates, and otherwise then you're saving up for the next property all over again. And that's why it can be a slower strategy. I'm not saying you can't be successful doing that. I'm just simply saying it's a little bit less scalable because the speed and the velocity of the capital that you're applying towards your investment portfolio is different. So other attributes I want to type down is this property is right between Maple Grove and Woodcrest. Between Maplewood and Woodcrest. And I like to write down these little data points, especially about the neighborhood, so that if I ever come across another potential property that I want to renovate and I'm considering BRRRRing, then I need to know what neighborhood that property is in, because Birmingham is a very street by street neighborhood. So if you don't have exactly, yes, I'm finished. If you don't have the right neighborhoods, then you don't have an apples to apples comparison, because what's the perfect comp, right? Perfect comp would be the property next to it also had the same square footage, same bed bath count, same finish, same year built, blah, blah, blah. But that's simply not the case, right? As you go across neighborhoods, across big man-made borders, as Route 75 here, or natural borders of these creeks, you're in completely different neighborhoods. So the further and further you get away from your comp, the higher and higher the risk of your ARV being incorrect. So when you get a appraisal from your lender and it does not reach or meet the value that you're looking for, that allows you to pull back out as much capital as possible, what are you going to do to challenge that? Where is the substantial evidence of sold comparable properties that you can put forth to your lender or the appraiser to challenge that appraisal? And that's why we do this every single day. We add one property to this market list every single day so that we can understand this market very, very well. All right, so going forward, above average, not modern, but rental grade above average, slightly above average kitchen and bathrooms, no flooring work needed, maybe some touch up paint. Max. Basement is not finished. So now I can write some notes to myself about the condition of the home. And you can see that in general, I mean, this is slightly above average, right? I mean, it's not a super modern kitchen, but it looks rental grade. There's no flooring work that's needed. The bathroom isn't super modern by any means, but again, it looks clean. It looks rental grade. So this might be a very, very good comp for you as a 5-bedroom property. Now, at $75 a square foot, that's pretty low, right? So you got to keep track of what's really happening in that market and seeing what our property is being sold for. Did this property ever sell? This is a 5-bed, 3-bath. This sold on for $235. Yeah, all right, sold at $88. Good to know. But this one, I would like to argue that it's a little bit nicer in terms of finishes. So if I had to renovate a property, I might try to make the property look like this property so that I can get that 109 a square foot instead of settling for the $75 a square foot, just because they're in the same zip code, right? Not saying that's a perfect comp. Probably still pretty far away. Yeah, this property is all the way down here. Interesting. Yeah, and our comper is all the way over here, all the way on the other side of the airport. So might not be the best comp because that's a completely different neighborhood, but at least you have a comparable property because there's not that many 5-bedroom plus. So your appraiser might be forced to go all the way over there for a comp, right? All right, amazing. So now that we got the property details down here for our comp list, we now know to refer back to it next time. But if I were to just analyze this deal as is, right? Let's analyze this deal as is. So this property is being listed for $179,000. 179. Let's see if there are any properties in this area for rent. This was 235 35217 for rent. I'm looking for a 5-bedroom plus. Let's see if I see anything. There's one property for $1,800. Let's see if this is overpriced. So this property has been on the market for 140 days to rent and only have 40 contacts. It tells me that there's not that much demand for a property it's very similar square footage with an extra bathroom too for $1,800. So I will be hesitant to use this property as a comp, even though it's at least somewhat close. There's another $1,700, but it's on the opposite of the side of the highway. This is getting an traction. Maybe this neighborhood's a little bit. This is completely different zip code, so it's gonna be hard to use that comp. So max. I'm thinking $1,700 for rents, but let's also check affordablehousing.com. If you go to affordablehousing.com and you go to the owner section and you go to the market rent estimator, you can see that the average rent is $2,000, but it's for 9-mile radius. That's way too big of a radius. That's too much. That's not a great comp, and that's why I use Zillow to quickly look for a comp, because I know that there is a very small supply of 5-bedroom properties in this area, and if you don't understand exactly where your property belongs, it's going to be very hard for you to rent it out. So I'm not comfortable using anything more than $1,700 for rent right here, just because this property is on the other side, but again, got an extra bathroom, some square footage, but similar rental grade. I mean, you look at the conditions of the bathroom and the kitchens. I mean, I would say that's comparable. So I'll put $1,700 for now for rent for this property. And for my renovations, I'll probably just put something like 2 toilets with a high pressure flush toilets. I got $1,700. I'll probably do the 2388 square foot. So I'm assuming I need to repaint maybe 25% of the home at $3 a square foot, just to be a little conservative. $500 for the landscaping and $1,500 for the roof. So it gives me total rehab about $6,700. Okay, not much compared to overall size of the property. Then I'm going to get the payment calculator from the property taxes. $191. 139 equals 139 for home insurance. So I'll multiply that by 1.2 to get to my insurance premium, assuming that the 139 here is an estimate for a homeowner insurance, assuming someone lives there as a prime residence. But if you're using an investment property, it's going to be deemed as a riskier asset. So that's why I am adding a 20% premium by multiplying by 1.2. Then I'm adding 10% expenses for maintenance, right? Even if I don't have any repairs right away, I'm putting aside this money every single month for future repairs. Otherwise, you run the risk of not achieving and not estimating your expenses properly, because you'll be underestimating your expenses and overestimating your profitability if you do not put aside this money. Don't be that person, right? We just had an HVAC stolen at one of our properties that cost about $5,000. We've had roof repairs that came in and cost $15,000. All these factors are huge, okay? So make sure you set aside the money. Don't be that person, and don't listen to anybody that ever says there's no maintenance, even if it's a turnkey property, because that's not true. All right, 10% for property management expenses. I got 5% for vacancy expenses. Now, for this property, if I do a 25% down, my down payment would equals to my down payment percentage in F19 times a B4, which is my listing price. So I'll be putting down 44.75K, 2% closing costs, $6,700 renovations. So my financing amount is going to equals to my B4 minus my down payment. So that's B4 minus E19. So I'll be financing 134.25K. If I finance this at 7.5%, delete this because there's no secondary loan here. If I can rent this out as a property for $1,700, I would be break even, so negative $22 a month narrowly. That's a negative 0.5% return. Assuming I can rent this property for $1,700 and I buy it for $179, $6,700 rehab, 25% down, 7.5% interest rate. Now, again, this is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments on the call. I'm just showing you how to tactically and unemotionally take down your inputs. So if I were to try to achieve a 10% cash and cash return in E9, what do I need to lower the asking price by to achieve that number? If I go to 110 grand, 115, there you go. At 115 grand, I will achieve my target return of 10%, assuming I can rent this property out for $1,700. Now, you should probably verify the $1,700 with your property manager to see if that's realistic, because it's hard to rent. $6,700 in a rehab, 25% down, 7.5% interest rate. Okay. Now, what happens if the interest rates drop to 60%? And that's the whole reason why we're tracking properties that are coming on the market, right? Because if you understand how 30-year mortgage interest rates, for 30-year mortgages, for the interest rates, how they're heavily affected by the 10-year yield, the 10-year treasury yield. And you can see right now, we are almost at the peak, right? We just came back down from the peak of like 4.8 in the last 12 months. But if you were to buy a property today, you might have been using comps that were sold in September and October to determine your ARV estimates when interest rates were almost a full point lower, when there was a lot more flurry of activity for home buying. But now that's peaked again. In 3 months from now, if you're buying a property today for cash and you're renovating in 3 to 6 months from now, you might be looking at comps that were sold today for much lower prices because of the interest rates are higher. So it drives down affordability. It drives down the sales price of properties. So all these factors matter. And that's why we're tracking that stuff. So let's just say if your interest rates drop by 1.5 points, right? See what happened to the cash and cash return number in E9? It went up. So now your willingness to pay might go up. So now all of a sudden you might be at 128. So simply going down by 1.5 points on your interest rate, you're now willing to pay almost $13,000 more, right? That's the difference between 128 and 115 to achieve the same target return, 10% return, because now you're cash on 341, assuming everything else stays constant, and you're still able to rent it out for $17. All right. Hopefully this was helpful, everybody. My hope is that you copy my homework today using the same property, using the same spreadsheet. If you guys want to copy the spreadsheet, just go to affordablehousing.io, go to the Get Deal Analysis tool, plug in your name, email, your phone number. That's the fastest way you get a copy of the spreadsheet. And my hope is that you start your own YouTube channel. Because at some point, someone's going to ask you, hey, why do you think this is a deal? And you can say, I know that this is a deal because I've been looking at deals for the past 491 days. Might that give you some confidence that you know what you're doing? I certainly hope so. All right, new podcast alert. If you guys have not seen the latest podcast with Mike Kurodowski, great guy, talks a lot about how he made the transition from single-family homes to multifamilies, particularly focusing on Section 8. He even went through some energy efficiency programs like the LEAN program, the Mass A program in Massachusetts, where he essentially got windows for free, insulation for free. I'm talking about millions and millions of dollars of value. This is the podcast that you do not want to miss. Definitely check it out. It's right on YouTube right now. And I will see you all tomorrow for day 492. Have a good one, everybody. I'll see you all tomorrow. And see you for day 492. Have a good one, everybody.